All right, let me explain to you guys why I've been kind of curious on this. All right, I want to show you guys a video to give you some context. Remember there was that video that went around a couple weeks ago that was implicating Erika Kirk with having like CIA connections, and people didn't really know what it was? Well, it was this documentary called Black Start USA by a man named Betraya Patrick. Betraya Patrick. Can't really pronounce words to save my life. But anyway, it was a documentary. It was very short. I'm about to play it now. And one of the men involved in this documentary is a former CIA director who was working under the Clinton administration during like almost the same exact 2-year period that Epstein showed up to the White House 17 times. It like lines up like almost perfect because those 17 times that he visited Clinton at the White House, it was within a short period of time, short window, 2 years. And this guy was working there the whole time. And around the same time he stepped down was when he stopped showing up. Now, fast forward, 1997, Bill Clinton opens the doors. He opens the floodgates for Romania. All these NGOs, all these nonprofits, what Epstein was Epstein's business, Clinton Initiative's business, and Erika Franzwe's business. None of this happens without Clinton's 1997 Bucharest deal. So now I'm just trying to like connect some dots here, and I find it very, very suspicious that Erika's in a documentary with the former CIA director that was working under Clinton during the same time Epstein was showing up to the White House, and now I'm finding out that Erika's mom may have some business overlap or be in like the same like social sphere of business, you could say, with this guy who was the former CIA director, James Woolsey. Woolsey? I don't know. We're gonna see. So what would happen if that web was disrupted? This is like some like what would happen if the grid goes down type scare video.
Using military-style weapons.
Wasn't just a couple of guys out having a beer.
Parties unknown used AK-47s to attack the transformers of that facility.
Top former energy official claims an attack on an American power grid was terrorism.
The Metcalf attack pointed out that the substations are important parts of our national grid, but they're completely unprotected.
We have 5 major threats that make our grid extremely vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats.
Now, I just want to point out, this video was made in 2015. So I think at this time, she was still dating TJ Massey, if that's how you pronounce his name, the baseball player. I think it was around the time that she was almost made that movie November Renaissance. It was at this point she had already known Tyler Boyer, because this is right around that time also that her and Tyler Boyer were seen at the Trump rally. Maybe this was made a little bit before. But I just want to get like the whole timeline, paint the whole picture. And most importantly, this is also around the same time that she has her operation going on in Romania.
The 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures in the United States: food, water, transportation.
So this is him, James Woolsey, former CIA director. He worked there from 1993 to 1995, I believe. In the same 2-year period. Wait, hold on. Let's look him up real quick. All right, so born in September 1941. We don't need this. All right, so Woolsey held important positions in both Democratic and Republican administrations. His influence has been felt during the administrations of Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. He also worked at the Shea and Gardner law firm as an associate from 1973 to 1977 and partner 1979 to 1989. And it says 1991 to 1993. Woolsey has served in the U.S. government as an advisor during military service on the U.S. delegation to the Strategic Arms and Limitations Talks, Vienna, General Counsel to the U.S. Senate Committee on Armed Services from 1970 to 1973, Undersecretary of the Navy 1977 to 1979, Delegate at Large to the U.S. Soviet Strategic Arms Reduction Talks, START, and Nuclear and Space Arms Talks, Geneva 1983 to 1986, Ambassador to the Negotiation on Conventional Arms Forces in Europe, Vienna 1989 to 1991, Director of the CIA from 1993 to 1995. Relationship with Bill Clinton. As director of the CIA, Woolsey had limited access to President Clinton, according to journalist Richard Miniter. Never once in his 2-year tenure did CIA Director James Woolsey ever have a one-on-one meeting with Clinton. That's really odd. How would the President of the United States of America not have a one-on-one meeting with James Woolsey, with his Director of CIA in a 2-year period? How does that make sense? Even semi-private meetings were rare. They only happened twice. Woolsey told me it wasn't that I had a bad relationship with the President. It just didn't exist. Well, let me make sure I'm not. Okay. Another quote about his relationship with Clinton, according to Paula Kaufman of Insight on the News. Remember the guy who in 1994 crashed his plane into the White House lawn? That was me trying to get an appointment to see President Clinton. David Halberstam. I gotta look. Did that actually happen? That somebody crashed into the lawn? That's crazy if it did. All right. David Halberstam notes in War in a Time of Peace that Clinton chose Woolsey for CIA director because the Clinton campaign had courted neoconservatives leading up to the 1992 election, promising to assist democratic Taiwan, Bosnia, in the Bosnian War and be tougher on human rights violations in China. And it was decided that they ought to give at least one neoconservative a job in the administration. Okay, so it claims that he was a political hire. That it was Clinton trying to be bipartisan, so he gave him the job, but didn't really care to have a relationship with him. But that's still odd because director of the CIA is a really important position, and it's just really strange. Actually, you know what? It kind of makes sense. In a weird way, it makes sense because the second Epstein stopped showing up to the White House, he got replaced. So we got to find out who replaced him. You know what? Let me keep reading first. All right, so it says Aldrich Ames. Woolsey was CIA director when Aldrich Ames was arrested on February 21st, 1994 for treason and spying against the United States. The CIA was criticized for not focusing on Ames sooner, given the obvious increase in Ames' standard of living. And there was a huge uproar in Congress when Woolsey decided that no one in the CIA would be dismissed or demoted at the agency. Woolsey declared, "Some have clamored for heads to roll in order that we could say that heads have rolled. Sorry, that's not my way." So he resigned over controversy. So Aldrich Ames. It's getting good, guys. So who is Aldrich Ames? All right, so Aldrich Ames was an American CIA counterintelligence officer who was convicted of espionage on behalf of the Soviet Union and Russia in 1994. He served a life sentence without possibility of parole in various federal prisons until his death in 2026. Oh, so this guy just died. When did he die? January 5th? R.I.P. It's like basically a month ago. Ames was responsible for the arrest and eventual execution of numerous Soviet and Russian officials secretly working on behalf of the U.S. intelligence community. Oh, what a dick. And had compromised more highly classified CIA assets than any other intelligence officer at the time of his arrest until the arrest of FBI agent Robert Hansen 7 years later in 2001. Both Ames and Hansen were recruited by Viktor Cherkashin, a high-ranking KGB officer. It's crazy, like, when you read about this stuff and, like, try to find out what's going on behind the scenes. I think I heard about this once, but I didn't really dig into it. I probably should have focused on it more. All right, CIA career. Ames returned to the CIA summer of 1960. He was 1960 to the 90s? That's 30 years. That's like the whole Cold War. When did he flip? He then became an assistant technical director at a Chicago theater until February 1962. Returning to the Washington metropolitan area, Ames took full-time employment at the CIA, doing the same sort of clerical jobs he had performed in high school. While taking his first polygraph examination, Ames claimed to have committed a crime which was considered no probability of deception. Considered no probability of deception. That don't make sense. Let me explain. Let me explain to you guys. As somebody who does a lot of his research based on probability, there is always a probability of deception. Like, get the fuck out of here. Who's making this shit up? All right. While drunk, stole a delivery boy's bicycle when joyriding. This confession had not been considered. All right. So we're gonna. I want to stay focused. We'll get back to this another time though. Woolsey joined the board of directors at the Arlington Institute in 1992. He is currently a member. That's nice. What else did he do? Henry Jackson Society, a British think tank. Woolsey has had long-standing contact with Central and Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe? Interesting. And as a member of the Board of Advisors for America of the Global Panel Foundation, based in Berlin, Copenhagen, Prague, Sydney, and Toronto. He was formerly chairman of the Freedom House Board of Trustees. He is a member of the International Advisory Board of NGO Monitor. Woolsey is a member of the Project of the New American Century, and was one of the signatories on the January 26, 1998 letter sent to Bill Clinton that called for the removal of Saddam Hussein. That same year, he served on the Rumsfeld Commission, which investigated the threat of ballistic missiles for the U.S. Congress. Woolsey previously served as chairman of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a nonprofit, nonpartisan D.C.-based research institution, foreign policy. John McCain hired Woolsey as an advisor on energy and climate change issues for his 2008 U.S. presidential election campaign. In April of 2011, Lux Capital announced that Woolsey would become a venture partner in the firm. Lux Capital is New York City, but what do they do? What do they do? Carlyle, all right. Carlyle Group. All right, so Woolsey was a big-time neocon. If he's a big-time neocon, he might have some other connections, if you know what I mean. Woolsey currently sits on the strategic advisory board of, Energy with Dick Cheney, well, not anymore, see you later, and Lord Jacob Rothschild. Genie is known for discovering massive oil. Okay, you know what? We're going to do this. We're just going to load all this up. I want all of it.
And communications, etc. All 17 of the others depend on electricity.
If our grid goes
17 of the others
Is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures in the United States: food, water, transportation, communications, etc. All 17 of the others depend on electricity.
If our grid goes down, you can't cook, you're not going to heat anything, you can't run any of your medical supplies, you can't talk on your phone, you can't take money out of a bank, and we turn into total chaos.
If this happens, the system stops.
If a transformer is taken down, we have to order it from Germany or China.
Who is this
It's gonna take
video
a
made
year.
for?
Up till recently,
Seems like a lot of
there were no
fear-mongering.
comprehensive protective solutions available.
We know what the solutions are. They're not expensive. They're not difficult to employ. We just need the political will to do it and the follow-through on the part of the electric utilities to get it
What are they
done.
trying to scare Congress into writing some checks?
Congress and the CIA and the NSA, all of the areas that need to function in the government are protected. So why can't we be protected?
Around some of these facilities, you don't have much more than a chain link fence to keep people out. Now that seems absurd to me.
I think it is absurd when we now know that attack on as few as 9 grid substations could bring down all 3 major interconnections for the United States grid.
If the power goes out, you get the generator, and if that goes out, you get another one. There's never been a plan for what happens after that.
The director of the National Security Agency, Admiral Rogers, came out and said it's not a matter of...
I got a plan.
It's a matter of...
I hope you guys
If an
do
EMP
too.
attack happened or a major solar storm, it would bankrupt the insurance companies. They have an economic incentive to see, because they'll go out of business permanently.
We're really being taken over by a corporate agenda rather than a public agenda.
And for all those politicians and people in Congress, senators, congressmen, they should be out if they're not supporting this, I think, the most important security issue in our nation today.
I wonder if she still thinks that.
Black start is the hardest thing to do. It's trying to restart the grid after it's been knocked out. And
So that's why it's called Black Start.
On a national scale, this has never been done before.
Well, if Snowden pops up. So data alignment, All right, so data alignment. Epstein White House visits versus Woolsey's CIA tenure. Woolsey's tenure, DCI CIA head, February 5th, 1993 to January 10th, 1995. Epstein White House visitor log window, as reported from FOIA-derived logs, first recorded February 1993 to January 1995. Just like I said, freaking right on the money. Yo, you can't tell me that's a coincidence. I don't know what it means, but it has to mean something. It has to mean something that Jeffrey Epstein went to the White House to visit Clinton 17 times between February 1993 and January 1995, and that director of CIA, who was a bipartisan political hire that he never dealt with one-on-one, was working there during that same period. Now, what is the probability that Epstein's visits stopped because of the Aldrich thing? That is very possible. The same exact period. I think Woolsey, could he have been just a lame duck director? Clinton put him in there so that he would mind his own business. Just do what you want. Fuck off. Don't worry about me. Clinton's got whatever he's got going on with Epstein. All of a sudden, Aldrich Ames gets caught for espionage. Other people start paying more attention. We got to get a better guy running the CIA. Epstein takes a backseat a little bit. Starts hanging out with Trump more and doing the Victoria's Secret runway shows. Because remember, the first Victoria's Secret runway show was in 1995. At that point, Epstein had power of attorney over Les Wexner's The Limited Business, which owned Victoria's Secret, and they did their first runway show in 1995 at the Plaza Hotel, the last year Trump still owned it. Remember, Trump went into bankruptcy in 1990, I believe, and had a huge financial problem. And it was actually Wilbur Ross who facilitated all of the loans, or majority of the loans, I believe, for the Rothschilds and Rothschilds Inc. And I believe they got him about $2 billion of loans, the majority of which came from Citibank. Now, don't quote me 100%. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, though. Or I don't know if they got him the whole $2 billion. I don't remember if they got him $2 billion in loans or if he was $2 billion in debt, but it was one or the other. Sorry, I'm sleep deprived, and I haven't read through that file in a while. All right, hold on. Now we start using Bayes. This is when it starts getting fun. All right. So I said, what is the probability that after the Aldrich Ames scandal, that national security and foreign agents became a top priority within U.S. intelligence? It says, hi, on the evidence, the posterior is comfortably above 90%. The counterintelligence, catching moles, foreign agents, tightening security, and fixing internal controls became a top-tier priority in U.S. intelligence after Ames. I would bracket it as 95%, 90 to 98%, with uncertainty mainly on how top priority is defined across agencies and budget lines. What supports that estimate? Immediate institutional response at CIA. Contemporaneous reporting describes Woolsey announcing internal security, personnel, computer system changes as a response to the Ames case in mid-1994. Congressional reaction and explicitly framed as CI security posture fixes. Senate documentation notes that in the wake of Ames, multiple bills were introduced designated to improve the counterintelligence and security posture of the U.S. government. Formal after-action assessment oversight. The Senate Intelligence Committee produced an assessment of Ames' espionage case reflecting sustained high-level focus. CIA leadership framing Ames as a driver of bold management changes. CIA public statement 1995 explicitly uses Ames as the basis for major changes. Secondary effects. Tainted intelligence disinformation controversy 1995. Tied to the Ames damage assessment shows the issue expanded beyond the catch-the-mole into systematic reliability and decimation controls, which is classic CI territory. Why it's not 99%. Top priority competes with other simultaneous imperatives. Post-Cold War restructuring, Bosnia proliferation, terrorism. CI can be top tier. Counterintelligence can be top tier without being the single number one item everywhere. If you want a sharper image, the next step is to define top priority. Okay,